So with many leaks, we have some interesting things to talk about. So let's talk about one of the aircraft that were leaked, the J-10 Vigorous Dragon. Hello guys, once again it's Matt. Thank you all the members and patrons. Make sure to subscribe. And as you know, yesterday we had one of the leaks that are most definitely almost 100% confirmed. And the J-10 is kind of a giveaway that it is going to come, right? I would be really surprised if that was a mistake, of talking about that riddle, talking about the Vigorous Dragon being the J-10, and stuff. But, yeah, who knows, right? But still, let's get into it. What would the J-10 look like in the game? So what is this aircraft specifically, and how it would actually fly, and what it would be? Well, first things first. What is the J-10? So the J-10 is called the Vigorous Dragon. It's made by Chengdu, and it is a single-engine multi-role combat aircraft, okay? It's, considered a 4.5 generation, but to be honest, in the early models, it is pretty much similar to what we have in the game, and that's what the variant could actually be, the variant that could actually be added. The first one, normally called the J-10A. This is what I think you should expect. This is like the one that it's not really a 4.5 generation. So the aircraft itself is a light aircraft, a empty weight of it's less than 10 tons. So it is a very lightweight aircraft. In objective, it would be similar to something like the F-16, the Mirage 2000, the Gripen, multi-role aircraft that can do everything, but they are not really heavy aircraft, they are light aircraft that can be massively produced very easily, and of course being cheap, and of course being capable enough, okay? One thing that you have to understand is that these aircraft actually, arguably, and I'm not gonna get too much into it, but it has some disputed origins, if you will, because it is very similar to the LaVie, and the LaVie was actually shown to the Chinese, and yeah, it's just a very similar aircraft to that. So the design kind of came from that, I would say, but I cannot confirm or deny that, of course, but it just really looks like that aircraft, and the Chinese were actually invited to take a look into the LaVie when it was actually being developed, right? But no matter what, it is a light aircraft that will be similar to something like the Gripen. So single engine. So the engine out of it's a very interesting aircraft, guys. It's an aircraft that actually combines everything into one aircraft, multiple technologies, right? The engine, for example, is initially an AL-31, later it was changed to the WS-10, which is basically an AL-31 made in China, but probably for the initial variant, it will be the AL-31, which is the same engine as the Su-27, the J-11s, right? It is an engine that is massively produced, and it is a very cool and strong engine for such a light aircraft, right? Of course, the design is a delta wing with canards, so it should be a very maneuverable aircraft. Expect this thing to be as maneuverable as a Mirage, Gripen, or F-16, something along those lines. Very light and nimble because of the delta wing. But of course, it will probably lose a lot of energy during turns. But the thing is that this engine actually will produce a lot of power, maybe even more than some of the other engines that we see in the game. So it produces around 116 kilonewtons in other aircraft static, so with the aircraft standing still, while, for example, the F-16 produces 114. So it's very similar power, in terms of the amount of power it produces and stuff to an F-16, but it is still a tiny little bit more strong, and a lot stronger than a Mirage 2000, for example. So it's pretty interesting, this engine. On the weapon sides and systems and everything like that, expect an aircraft that will be one of the most modern aircraft that we have in the game, Initially used a very similar radar to something like the MiG-29 SMT, okay? So it's very similar to that. It's mechanically scanned, a planar array, so it's nothing too crazy, but it is able to actually track and be engaged, or engage 2 targets simultaneously, you know. Some sources even claim with semi-active radar homing missiles, because this tank can actually use the PL-11, which is the aspide missile used in the J-8, right? So yeah, we might see this being the initial missile of this aircraft. But of course, it can actually use the PL-12 to actually fire in 4 targets at the same time. Later models actually use the ESA radars and stuff. Probably not gonna get that at, you know, at this time, but the initial variants would have a somewhat similar radar to the MiG-29 SMT. Okay. On the terms of missiles, as I was saying, of course, it can actually take the PL-12, PL-11, PL-8. That would be the main missiles. Of course, it can actually use better versions depending on later models, like the PL-10 and PL-15. But of course, this is for later models of the aircraft. Okay, main missiles: PL-8 for air-to-air, PL-12 for radar. I mean, both for air-to-air, but IR and radar, right? For the gun, it has the Grisha, you know, 23, normal MiG-23, MiG-21 guns, and normally used by the Chinese for a very long time. And it has basically 6 under-the-wing pylons that are the main pylons. I have to check how many missiles it can actually carry, you know, in the actual fuselage itself. I don't think it can carry multiple missiles there. I think it's going to be 6 missiles, but I could be wrong. And yeah, the rate of climb 300 meters per second. It has a max speed of Mach 1.8. You know, normal stuff. Thrust to weight should be 1.04, depending on situation and weight, of course. So it should be on par with the aircraft that we have right now. Nothing too crazy, like, oh my god, it's a 4.5 generation. Although the later models are technically considered a 4.5 generation, the initial models are very, very similar to what we have in the game. Same type of radar, same type of missile, same type of dogfighting capability. It should be a Chinese F-16, a Chinese Mirage 2000, a Chinese Gripen, as I was saying. So expect that to be the case for this aircraft. Okay, the only part that I think kind of pushes the envelope a little bit on this aircraft is that of the engine. Yes, the PL-12 and the PL-8s are going to be fine. They're not going to be anything too crazy. But the thing is that it has an incredible amount of power for such a light aircraft. And that's the major thing about this thing. You know, it's going to be different on that regard. It's an aircraft that is very, very light, but if you compare it to the power of the Mirage or the Gripen, it outpowers it by 20% sometimes. So it's crazy. It's very similar to the F-16, but the thing is that the F-16, it's using a normal wing design and stuff. This thing actually uses a delta wing, which normally tends to turn a little bit better. The thing is that delta wings make you lose a lot of energy, and well, if you're losing a lot of energy, guess what? It can actually help you maintain a lot more of the energy. The engine, right? So, yeah, that's pretty amazing. It will be a very, very cool aircraft. And yeah, hopefully it is going to be added. I think China, not that it needs anything, but I guess we are past that point, you know, of needing stuff. We actually just want stuff. And the J-10 is one of the most iconic Chinese aircraft for the modern age. So it needs to be added. So hopefully it is added. I'm really hoping for it. And if it is, expect a very deadly aircraft. But yeah, this is it. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think about the J-10 and if it actually should be added or not. I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe and bye. See ya.